Welcome to ABC Interactive English. I'm Matt.
And I'm Karen. Today we are looking at part 3 of our story called The Skylight Room. Now, we know that from part 1 and 2 that we have Miss Leeson, who is a typist, right? And she was renting a room from Mrs. Parker, and she had other roomers in the same house. And they really enjoyed her company. So I guess she was probably young and pretty.
And she had chosen to rent the room with the skylight, the Skylight Room.
Exactly. And then I remember one night she was looking through the skylight and then she saw a star. And she decided to name the star Billy Jackson. And it wasn't explained why.
But after that, things started to go bad for her because she couldn't find enough work to do, and she was being rejected from all the companies that she went to try to find a job.
Which means that she couldn't make any money and she couldn't buy food for herself. So she felt really, really weak and she fell onto her bed.
And after she did that, she kissed goodbye to the star Billy Jackson.
That's right. This is actually a story by a famous author called O. Henry, right?
That's right. Well, O. Henry is not his real name, but when he wrote these stories, he wrote them as O. Henry. His real name was William Sidney Porter.
I see. And he has written quite a few interesting stories that we have talked about on our show, like The Last Leaf, The Cop and the Anthem. There are quite a few interesting ones.
The Duplicity of Hargraves was one. So these stories were all written around the early 1900s, the time when O. Henry was living and writing these stories.
Yes, and I heard that the interesting part about this author is that he would observe people on the street. And then this is where he gets his inspirations, right? For his stories.
That's right. He's known for his surprise endings.
Oh, so there might be a twist in the end.
There might be.
Aha! Oh, I can't wait to find out what the twist is.
The maid found Miss Leeson the next morning. They couldn't wake her up, so someone phoned for an ambulance. When it came, the doctor learned of the problem and hurried to the Skylight Room.
Hello, today we're looking at part 3 of The Skylight Room.
That's right, we're going to find out the ending of our story today. Okay, the maid found Miss Leeson the next morning. Because we know that Miss Leeson was feeling really, really weak. She didn't eat for a long time because she ran out of money, right? So she kind of just fainted, or maybe she died. I don't know.
Okay, well, I don't know, but she's not doing well now because the maid found her in the same place. So the maid is a person who works in a place to clean the rooms or to keep it tidy. This term maid usually applies to a female or a woman who would do this kind of work, cleaning a place like in a house or a hotel even. Today we would mostly call these housekeepers. In a hotel, if you want someone to clean your room, you would call the housekeeper, which could of course be a man or a woman.
That's true.
Continuing with the story, they couldn't wake her up. So someone phoned for an ambulance.
Oh no, they couldn't wake her up. I wondered what happened. So if you find someone lying on the ground and then you try to wake them up and they can't wake up, you have to call the ambulance. So what's an ambulance? That is a noun. An ambulance is an emergency vehicle that transport people to the hospital in emergencies. So basically, if you get hurt, you get sick, you cannot go to the hospital by yourself, then you can call the ambulance. So for example, you can say, if you see that someone's been injured in a car accident, it's a good idea to call an ambulance.
Not just a good idea, but the right thing to do. I think you definitely should do that.
That's true. Okay, well, let's continue with the story. When it came, so it meaning the ambulance. When it came, the doctor learned of the problem and hurried to the Skylight Room. Okay, so the doctor learned about the problem and said, okay, there's a lady, she cannot wake up. So he hurried to the Skylight Room. What does that mean?
Hurry means to do something more quickly than you would usually do it. So if you are hurrying to do something, you're doing it at a faster pace than you usually would. So if I hurried to finish my homework before class, means I was writing it very fast because you need to have it finished before the teacher notices.
Exactly.
So the doctor hurried to Ms. Leeson's room, the Skylight Room, means he is, running up the stairs probably.
And it's very important to hurry because usually in case of emergency, time is very, very important. You do not want to waste any time at all because you could save lives.
That's right. So I wonder what's going to happen to Ms. Leeson. She has now, passed out or fell unconscious in her room and the doctors need to try to save her, but I'm really worried about what might happen to her.
I hope she doesn't die. I hope she can survive this. Well, I guess we'll have to take a short break and come back and learn about it.
Okay.
The doctor came down with Miss Leeson in his arms. He wasn't pleased, and he quietly told Mrs. Parker what he felt. After that, he got in the ambulance and left. There was a news item in the next morning's paper. It was about Miss Leeson's case. The ambulance doctor, Dr. William Jackson, said the patient would recover.
Welcome back, everyone. So before the break, we were still looking at our story called The Skylight Room. And now we know that Miss Leeson got very, very weak because she couldn't really buy food and feed herself. So she was really weak and she fell onto her bed. And then I remember the next day, the maid found her, right? And she tried to wake her up, but she couldn't. And then what happens was that someone had to call the ambulance, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then the doctors arrived and they hurried up the stairs. So continuing with our story, the doctor came down with Miss Leeson in his arms.
Like carrying her.
So if something's in your arms, it means you are holding something with both of your arms or carrying something. He wasn't pleased, and he quietly told Mrs. Parker what he felt.
So he wasn't pleased. What does it mean by pleased?
Well, pleased means to be happy with or about something. So to be happy, to feel that something is pleasant or nice, so you feel happy with it. But when you say you are not pleased with something, usually means that you are unhappy or angry about something. So when we say that he was not pleased, I think it means he was not pleased with Mrs. Parker, meaning he is somewhat angry at her.
Oh, but why?
Well, I think maybe the doctor feels that Mrs. Parker, as the landlord or the owner of this house, should be taking better care of her roomers and making sure that they don't end up in this kind of situation.
That's true, because in the original version of the story, I think Mrs. Parker is not a caring person, right? She doesn't really care too much about the people who are renting her place. So that's why the doctor was not very pleased with Mrs. Parker. And he was talking quietly to her about how he felt. So quietly is an adverb. It just means quietly, like not making much noise, speaking softly so people cannot hear you that well. You're not speaking in a loud voice. So for example, I could say, I slipped quietly out of the back door. Usually you would slip quietly out of the back door because you don't want people to know.
Maybe you just want to leave without disturbing anyone.
Or maybe that's the case. Okay, let's continue. After that, he got in the ambulance and left. So he, meaning the doctor. There was a news item in the next morning's paper. It was about Miss Leeson's case. Like a news item in the next morning's paper. So, back then, many people, if they want to learn about the news, they would have to read it from the newspaper. Okay, so they're talking about the newspaper. So news item basically means like a news article, like a story from the news.
And this news item or news story was about Miss Leeson's case. So a case meaning her situation or this particular event which has happened is her case. We could use this word case for many things, such as a medical case would be one case of a medical illness or one happening of a medical situation. So this is about Miss Leeson's case, meaning all the things that happened to her.
Okay, well, let's find out what happens next. The ambulance doctor, Dr. William Jackson, said the patient would recover. Yay! So that's great news. So that is the name of the ambulance doctor, Dr. William Jackson.
So does that name ring a bell? Have you heard that name before?
William Jackson. The star! Billy Jackson!
That's right. So this name William, we can sometimes shorten to Will or Bill. We change the W to a B and call someone Bill, and that can also be called Billy.
That's right. Someone named William, short, you can call them Billy. Okay, so the star, I still cannot connect the dots. But, we are talking about the patient will recover though, right? The patient meaning Miss Leeson, right? So what's a patient? That is a noun. A patient is a person who is receiving medical treatment from a doctor or hospital. So maybe someone who is injured or someone who is sick. So for example, you could say, the earlier the treatment is given, the better the patient's chances. That's right. You never want to wait until the last minute.
And Dr. William or Billy Jackson said that the patient would recover. So to recover means to get better or to get back to one's original state. So if she's going to recover from this, from not eating enough food, she's going to get better. She's going to become healthy again.
Great! So it's a happy ending after all.
It is a happy ending, and we found out maybe why she named that star Billy Jackson.
But how does she know? Did she know the doctor?
Maybe she could see the future somehow. She just knew that Billy Jackson would save her one day and he would be her star.
Wow. So it's kind of like having hope in your life, right? During the dark moments or dark times when you're having some trouble, maybe when she's hungry, when she's really poor, but still having hope, right? And keeping a positive attitude.
Look up and see the stars and enjoy the beauty of the stars and have hope for what can come in the future.
Oh, wow. Yay! I love happy endings. Okay, well, this is all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoy this story as well. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The maid found Miss Leeson the next morning. They couldn't wake her up, so someone phoned for an ambulance. When it came, the doctor learned of the problem and hurried to the Skylight Room. The doctor came down with Miss Leeson in his arms. He wasn't pleased, and he quietly told Mrs. Parker what he felt. After that, he got in the ambulance and left. There was a news item in the next morning's paper. It was about Miss Leeson's case. The ambulance doctor, Dr. William Jackson, said the patient would recover.
Hi, I'm Tina. 我们来看这一课的重点单字。第一个 ambulance 名词救护车。We called an ambulance. 我们打电话叫救护车。下一个单字 hurry 动词赶忙急忙。We need to hurry to catch the train. 我们要急忙去赶火车。下一个单字 case 名词病例。The hospital reported several new COVID-19 cases yesterday. 医院昨天通报了几个新的 COVID-19 病例。最后一个单字 patient 名词病人。The doctor examined the patient for hours. 医生为这位病人检查了好几个小时。接着我们来看重点文法。第一个 phone for something 打电话叫某物。Phone 在这里是一个动词，意思是打电话。注意介系词的用法必须使用 for。我们来看看这个例句 ：My mom phoned for pizza for dinner. 我妈妈打电话叫披萨作为晚餐。下一个文法 learn of something 得知某事物。Learn 表示听说获悉，注意搭配的介系词要使用 of。我们来看看这个例句。I learned of the news through social media. 我透过社群媒体得知了这则消息。Social media 指的是社群媒体。最后一个文法 in one's arms 在某人的怀抱里。这个用法当中的 arm 指的是手臂，很用复数形式哦。我们来看看这个例句 The cat fell asleep in Queenie's arms. 这只猫咪在 Queenie 的怀里睡着了。以上就是这一课的重点单词跟文法，我们下一课再见，拜拜。
Check it out.
Matt, I think there might be some errors in this report.
What? You're always criticizing me. You're so mean.
Matt, I'm not criticizing you. I'm just pointing out a possible mistake. Don't be such a snowflake.
Snowflake? But we're indoors.
No, Matt. Snowflake as in fragile and easily hurt. See, look. Wrong, and wrong. Ah. Hi everyone, today's term is snowflake.
Yes, and it doesn't always mean a flake of snow. It also refers to someone who is easily upset, especially when it comes to criticism.
That's right. It is believed to have originated from the physical qualities of snowflakes, which are delicate and can easily break apart.
Yes, so if someone is described as a snowflake, it means they are fragile and can easily be hurt emotionally.
Right. In modern slang, a snowflake can refer to someone who is overly sensitive or easily offended.
Here's an example sentence. Don't be such a snowflake. It's just a joke.
Or, my friend is such a snowflake. She gets upset over the smallest things.
It's important to remember that everyone has their own sensitivity levels, and it's not always a bad thing to be a snowflake.
Absolutely. Being sensitive can mean you're more empathetic and aware of others' feelings. But it's also essential to learn how to handle criticism constructively.
Well said, Karen. That's all for today, folks. Don't be a snowflake. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.